ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker for this morning. What is housing supply chain? Danielle Millette. Danielle believes in the power of combining new perspectives with existing knowledge to address complex, long-standing housing and supply chain issues. Danielle is a design thinking specialist and a senior analyst at operational policies and programs at CMHC's Innovation Division. Danielle has 19 years of professional experience in housing and has been instrumental in designing and executing the current round of the housing supply chain, our challenge, at Northern Access, supply chain solutions for northern and remote housing. Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful Danielle Millette. And I can't wait to hear your presentation. So Danielle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brent. Beautiful and sick Danielle today. Bear with me, I might cough a little bit and I might be drinking a bit of coffee, but I'm really excited to be here. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview. I'll just pull up a presentation of the Housing Supply Challenge, just so you can start your networking off on the right foot, fully understanding what everything is all about. I'll just swap this. Hopefully everybody can see the screen okay.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
So before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that I'm coming to you virtually today from my home in Ottawa, which is on the traditional unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. The Algonquins have lived on this land since time immemorial. And I'm grateful and I respect our traditional caretakers for everything that they have done to preserve our land and waters. I'm on a journey of truth and reconciliation, and I am committed to learning the truth and learning about the history of Canada's First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I would also like to acknowledge the role the federal government has had. And as an employee of a federal crown corporation, it's extremely important to find and act on opportunities that support decolonization. So I invite you all to, think about the land on which you're joining today and all of the good things that it has brought you as well. So I'll just provide a very quick overview here. And of course, if you have any questions, if you want to leave them to after, or you can come into my CMHC room and we can chat about everything I'm going to discuss here today. So what is the Housing Supply Challenge? This is a very different program for CMHC. We have lots of programs that directly support building units, housing units. This one is about addressing barriers to housing supply. So what's preventing the type of housing that we want to see? What's preventing the amount of housing we want to see? So on the screen here, you see some housing supply barriers. We have inconsistent or incomplete housing data, inefficiencies in construction, long approval processes and timelines, supply chain limitations, which this round is focusing on, public perception of new development, and support for urban densification. So the Housing Supply Challenge has $300 million over 5 years for multiple unique rounds. Each one is on a different theme area or barrier, which we would like to address. So when we're looking at our northern and remote round, we're focusing on supply chain limitations. So here we have some of the northern access supply chain barriers: distance to southern markets and supply hubs, limited capacity of fly-in, fly-out and sea lift services, climate and existing infrastructure, significant cost of materials and skilled workers, and the short season cycle and lengthy shipment timelines, and many more, of course. As your role of applying to the Housing Supply Challenge, you can identify the barrier that does prevent housing in your area and also suggest the solution to address that barrier. It can be different than what you see here. So each step within the supply chain for housing is crucial to getting what you need, where and when you need it, within budget and in good condition. And the barriers to accessing resources result in long delays, increased costs, and greater risk for the projects overall. So in this illustration, we have illustrated the housing supply chain going in a circle, and that is to demonstrate it's a constant cycle of planning, building, maintaining. It's continuous. And the grayish green circles, these represent the different stages of the supply chain. It's very simplified, of course. And basically the solutions that we're looking for, they could address one of these steps Each step does contain its own set of barriers. It could address multiple steps within the supply chain, or it could affect the entire supply chain itself. What upholds the housing supply chain, of course, is capacity. So the skilled workers that are able to support each step. So just to note that the Northern Access Round will not be funding solutions that build or maintain housing specifically, but instead will fund supply chain solutions that improve the access to resources and materials that are needed, so that everybody who wants to create housing supply can use these solutions rather than focusing on just independent small build projects. So anyone who has a small building project or a large, even if it's directly building housing supply, we have different programs for that. They're ineligible to this round. So Northern Access has 3 key objectives. Number 1 is to reduce time, cost, and risk to require materials for housing in northern and remote communities. So there's long timelines required for maintaining and building housing supply, high costs for transporting materials, and difficulty funding projects. Number 2 is demonstrate an impact on building or maintaining appropriate housing supply. So given that solutions are aiming to reduce supply chain barriers, it is understood that there may be an impact that extends to a variety of different industries, sectors, or regions, but the solutions must connect this impact directly back to housing supply. And then, of course, what is considered appropriate housing supply will depend on different contexts, geographic regions, cultural considerations, housing quality and sustainability, of course. And the third is to provide a direct benefit to northern and remote regions. So this benefit can be provided in different ways. It could be economic, cultural, social, environmental. All solutions must demonstrate how they provide a direct benefit to the northern and remote regions and communities. And the primary beneficiaries should be the regions in which the solutions are focused. So I'm just going to pause and have a little drink here. I hope you can hear me okay. So here we have a range of relevant solutions. This is by no means exhaustive or comprehensive. So these are examples that we have heard throughout our consultations and different research that we've heard about or learned that perhaps these solutions are needed to address supply chain barriers. Again, applicants can propose solutions that are totally outside of what you see here. So we have transportation and logistical solutions. We have solutions to increase fly-in, fly-out communities, solutions to improve climate adaptation and culturally appropriate techniques, technology solutions that improve or expand existing infrastructure. My favorite, local community-driven solutions that reduce dependency on the supply chain. So not only can you increase access to the supply chain, you can also disrupt the current supply chain. Then we have alternative methods for financing, land development and construction, innovative approaches to materials, and capacity and training solutions. So northern and remote involvement, this is a new and important requirement for this round. We strongly encourage northern and remote applicants to lead a project or decide the type of collaboration that best meet their needs and interests. For the northern and remote applicants, you would meet the requirements throughout this round in stage 1 and stage 2 if you are leading your own project. For applicants that are not northern or remote but are proposing projects in these regions, there will be a requirement for collaborating and or partnering with communities, organizations, or groups that are representative of that region. So in addition to partnership and collaboration, co-design, consultation, and consistently engaging community members will also be essential to the design and development of each project. It's paramount that all projects are involving the communities and regions in which the project will be focused. So the requirements differ. At stage 1, we require a commitment to this northern and remote involvement. and any details about the current partnerships or collaborations you may have. It's not required to have identified these partners at this stage because we know it takes time to build trust and to make these connections. Whereas at stage 2, you have 12 months in order to make these connections and formalize any partnerships or collaborations, to co-design with the communities and regions for the projects. And it is an absolute requirement at stage 2 that this northern and remote involvement can be demonstrated. Here we have our funding and timeline. Total funding available is up to $80 million. We're currently in stage 1 where applicants are developing initial submissions, and the deadline for applications is June 23rd, 2022. Those selected to move on to stage 2 that are shortlisted can request up to $250,000 in incubation funding, and you will be allowed to request different amounts depending on your needs. There will be no consideration as to if you ask for a little bit less, if that would increase your chances. Just go for what you need, think big. And then the shortlist will develop these final submissions, and their deadline in stage 2 is September 2023. Then beginning in November of 2023, once we've selected the final shortlist, they will have a pool of up to $75 million in implementation funding, and they have 16 months to spend that money. And here we have our application requirements. So we're looking for the applicant information and that they meet the eligibility. I'll mention that in my next slide. Number 2 is the barrier and the geographic area of this barrier. Number 3 is the idea. Oh, sorry, my daughter. So number 3 is the idea and its impact on northern and remote access. Sorry, my 3-year-old is quarantining with me. Number 4 is the northern and remote involvement. Number 5 is a description of the team members and their capacity. And number 6 is the plan for project development, which would include the amount of incubation funding that you are requesting. Oh, my next slide is not moving here. And so in terms of applicant eligibility, the funding recipient must be a legal entity duly incorporated and validly existing in Canada, including for-profit and not-for-profit organizations, listed companies, associations, research centers, and so on, Indigenous governments, organizations, and groups, Canadian post-secondary institutions, provincial, territorial, municipal, local, or regional governments, or a consortium of any of the above. You can be an individual that is applying. However, you must have a legal entity that will receive any incubation or implementation funding that you are selected to receive. You can also be an international individual or organization, again, as long as you have a Canadian entity that will receive that funding. And here we have the networking event. So of course, today we are doing the Northern Networking Forum. It's going to be an amazing day. We also have the virtual networking breakout rooms that are coming up May 4th and May 18th. So the registration for these breakout rooms is limited. So I definitely encourage you to sign up. There will be a wait list generated once the maximum capacity has been reached. And this is about putting different participants in breakout rooms, and they can meet each other, discuss their ideas and challenges, identify partners or collaborators. So definitely check that out. And how to apply. Our application form is available on Impact Canada. Also, if you require a paper copy of the application materials, please contact our team at challenge@cmhc.ca and request an application package. So this includes the application form, the applicant guide, and some additional resources. And if there's no internet, you can fax in your application. However you apply, mail, fax, or online, all applications must be received by June 23rd, 2022 at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And now I also want to mention another program that many have asked about when we're speaking about, we're speaking about the Housing Supply Challenge. So NRC, National Research Council, does also have an Arctic and Northern Challenge program that is currently in the initial stage as well. It has been launched. And so they have up to $5 million over 3 years to successful research teams to help address pressing issues impacting the quality of life for people in Northern and Arctic Canada. And all the projects aim to increase Northern capacity to advance research and technology projects and include traditional and Indigenous knowledge. They have a networking session coming up right in between our virtual networking rooms on May 10th. So that's an opportunity to connect with NRC staff and other potential partners. And if you'd like to be invited to that, there's an email address on your screen. I would encourage you to reach out. The other neat thing to know is that both the programs allow stacking. So if you are applying to the Housing Supply Challenge, I would encourage you to look into this ANCP program as well. And you could potentially do that letter of intent, which is due June 17th, at the same time that you're applying to our program on by June 23rd. So it's the letter of intent, and then they have a full application that's due October 21st. If you have any questions, we can put you in touch with the NRC staff. So that's it for me. You can sign up for updates if you'd like to learn about future rounds of the Housing Supply Challenge at cmhc.ca/Housing Supply Challenge. And of course, if you have questions, you can check us out in our networking room, or you can email us at challenge@cmhc.ca.
Thank you very much, Danielle. That was a lot of information. And just to let you know, don't worry. Those of you that are here, that are in attendance, Danielle will be available in the CMHC virtual room later on this afternoon. So if you have any questions for her, please do so. Write them down now, and then you can ask her later on this afternoon. Right, Danielle? Are you going to be here?
That's right. I'll be here. I'm going to have a colleague here to assist as well, Angela. Okay. As you know, I'm a little bit sick, a little bit quarantined with a 3-year-old. So you'll be in good hands though with Angela.
Yeah, and I thank you very much for taking this time, especially with how you're feeling right now. And my ears perked right away when I heard 300 million over the next 5 years. So those of you that are here, get cracking. The deadline is June 23, so you do not want to miss that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you one more time for Danielle Millette from CMHC.